Well, hello, Haka Daisies. This is Mrs. Hunter, and this is a follow-up to talk about points, lines, line segments, and rays. And the first thing I want to talk about are points. As we discussed in our previous video, points are simply a location in space. So in this particular section here, we will see that this is called point A, point B, or this one could be called point C. And it's simply what it looks like. It is a point, it is a location in space, indicated by a simple dot. The next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is a line. Now, the difference with a line is it is a series of points that go in two different directions, and it can be labeled A, B, or C. And of course, it can be any letter actually on these points, but for our example, we're going to be using points A, B, and C. The way that you label this line can be several ways, and that's what I want us to go over right now. This line can be labeled A and C, and then we will place a small line across the top of it. We have capital letters, and it's only going to be two letters to indicate a line. Likewise, this line can be called the opposite, CA. And why can it be called CA? Because the line goes in two different directions. Now, because this is a line that goes in two separate directions, there are several other abilities that you have to name this line. You can also call it AB or BA. This line can also be called, of course, then BC. And if you guessed it, if you could guess it, then it could also be called CB. And I think those are all of the different ways that we can name this line segment, but we just need to remember that a line is a series of points connected in a straight path that goes on forever and ever in both directions. And that is why we have two arrows. Then moving on, we have line segments. Line segments are a part of a line with two endpoints. And so if we were to lift up BC and place it over here, we have taken a part of that line and we have now made it into a line segment. And a line segment is, again, just a part of a line and it has two endpoints. Now, how do you think we can label this line segment? The line segment can be named with just a line with two endpoints over capital letters BC. And if you were guessing, Mrs. Hunter, can we do the opposite? Can we change it and call it CB? We certainly can. That is line segment CB. The main thing you need to remember with line segments are they are part of a line and they have two endpoints. And now let's talk about rays. Now I've run out of space here, so we're going to see if we can make a little bit more space. And what I want you to see, we're going to move on to a new page. Talking about rays now. Now a ray looks like this. And in my first video, I gave you guys an example of, I think, a sun ray. Because the sun, you have a sun, it shines in one direction. Some of you are going crazy because I said one direction. But let's get back to geometry. The rays for geometry are part of a line, but it has one endpoint. Now the funny thing is, this endpoint is actually the beginning of this ray. But you just need to know that because it does not have an arrow on the end here, it is called the endpoint. And how can we name or label this ray? If someone said BAT with a little ray on top of it, unfortunately, that is not correct. As mathematicians, we write with 2 points, and then we place the ray, the small ray, above it. So this is actually labeled ray BT. Is there another name for this ray? There actually is. There's one more other name. If you guessed and said ray BA, you are correct. Now, why am I starting again with B instead of going from TB or TA? The reason why, again, is because rays go in one direction. And you always start with the end point. So our only 2 available labels for this ray are going to be BT because it starts with the end point, and BA because it starts with the end point, and it's indicating that the ray is going on and on in one direction, either from B to T or B to A. But it always starts at the end point. Next thing that I want to talk to you guys about are things that you are already very familiar with, and that is parallel lines. Parallel lines have the same distance apart from one another, meaning they're the same distance apart, and they never, ever intersect. Very easy. You guys know that already. The new thing, so this was, parallel. But the new name that you may have forgotten or you're not as familiar with are perpendicular lines. And perpendicular lines have a very special relationship, and that is they cross at a 90-degree angle. So there are intersecting lines, but they cross at a 90-degree angle. And remember, whenever we see that little square in between 2 lines, that means that it is 90 degrees, or, as you remember, a right angle. Now, the symbol to indicate these lines and the relationship of these lines, for instance, if this is line AB and this is line CD, then we would say that line AB, remember the symbol, is perpendicular, that's the symbol for perpendicular, to line CD. Now, okay, Mrs. Hunter, you showed us what perpendicular, the symbol for perpendicular means, but you didn't show us for parallel. And you're right. Let me go back. So if we have this line let's call it BT, and this one is called CD. The symbol for that, for parallel, and how we would write it as mathematicians, is line BT is parallel, very cool, right? Very simple to remember, to line CD. And that's the symbol for parallel. So we have parallel lines as the symbol angle. Then we have perpendicular lines. I'll write it again by itself. It looks like basically two lines are intersecting at a right angle. That is the symbol for perpendicular lines. So, girls, this was our math moment and our review. I hope you are reducing and reviewing your notes. Make sure you do. And check back and look at this video over and over again if you need to just go over a couple of more terms. And I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great one. Bye.